मामा के पास चलते हैं। Good morning, everyone. I guess we have enough people in the meeting, so we can start. I hope you can hear me and see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, good morning, Jay.
Yes,
Good
morning.
Okay, so we stopped last class on this example that there is a convex function from n dimension to 1, and there is another non-decreasing convex function in 1 dimension to 1 dimension. And we were considering this composite function f, which is g of hx, and we want to show that f is convex. So as I said that definitely we will see different ways to show or prove the convexity, but as long as if we are looking at these kind of functions, keep in mind, just hold on a second. We always have to start with some x1, x2 or x or y. Well, I mean, whenever we want to prove the convexity using Jensen's inequality. Okay, so always remember we need to come up with some x1, x2 or whatever y1, y2 or xy, whatever you want to. And then so that convex combination of points, the functional value of convex combination of point is less than equal to functional value of functional value at the each of the points, the convex combination of functions. If we are able to show that, we will be able to prove it is convex. So let's say I take 2 points x and y belonging to Rn. Okay, and define this point U as convex combination of these 2 points. Good so far? Once we have defined that, always remember, whenever I'm saying that, especially in case of composite functions and all that, what you need to show is that this f of this guy is less than equal to lambda fx plus 1 minus lambda fy. This is the the aim you have when you're trying to prove in terms of convexity. So let's write f of u equals to g of hu. And further expand h of u as h of lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y. Good so far? Any questions? Okay. Now somehow I need to show that the quantity I have written here is less than equal to lambda of fx plus 1 minus lambda f of y. If I'm able to show this, I can say that this function is convex. So how do we go about it? So as I asked, give it a try. I would love to discuss if you have tried it. Abhijit, are you here? Okay, anyway. Did anyone try it? So this is how you want to proceed, that when I ask you to do something as a practice, and if you do not do it, it is not helpful. I'm not giving a lot of questions right now. Definitely I will give you homework assignments, but you need to keep in mind that you need to try all these things. If I keep giving you everything, it will be like a spoon feeding and you will not be able to do things on your own. Okay. Anyway, I will proceed. So g of h lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y. This is nothing but my this part, sorry. This part is my g of h of u. So can I say, so h of lambda x plus 1 minus, h of lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y is less than equal to lambda hx plus 1 minus lambda y. Still in my sleep. Can we say that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Suppose Yes, please go ahead.
Because h of x is a convex function, it was given. So this is satisfied.
So given convexity of Hx, okay. So by the convexity of Hx, I can say that this will be satisfied. Now suppose when you did h of lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y, and this number comes out to be, let me call it m, and this number comes out to be n. Now can I say g of m will be always less than g of n? Which property I am using?
So a non-decreasing convex function, it was given.
So as we know that g is a non-decreasing, so
Yes.
as we increase the, let's say if it is in on x axis, if I this is my m and this is my n and this is going something like this. So g of m will be always less than equal to gm. Can we say that? Why?
Yes.
Non-decreasing g. Now let's try to put all these things which I have discussed here in our this equation. So g of h lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y, can we say will be less than equal to g of lambda hx plus 1 minus lambda hy? Just look at the expression and see if it is satisfied or not, or makes sense. Not satisfied, makes sense. Just give me a second. I have written it on the margin. It will disappear when you try to print it. G of h lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y is less than equal to g of lambda hx plus 1 minus lambda hy. See it carefully and tell me. So based on what we have discussed here, two things, given the convexity of hx and given the non-decreasing nature of g, can we say this or not?
Yes, sir.
So this is nothing but g of m and is less than equal to g of n. So we have reached until this point. What next? See, we need to reach here to show the convexity. If it does not, then it does not.
So it is given like f of x is equal to g of h of x.
Yes, so
we can.
how do you write f of x directly from here? See, the composite function is definitely defined as fx equals to g of hx. We started from here, then we use the convexity of hx and non-decreasing nature of g, and we reach to this point. From here, I need to reach here. Can you convert this expression into this expression? This one?
Sir, G is also a convex function, so we can write.
So we need to use the property that this g is also a convex function. So if I write using the Jensen's inequality, g of hx plus 1 minus lambda g of hy, right? Using the Jensen's inequality, convexity of g. Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
So we have used all the property, and luckily we have reached also. This is nothing but lambda fx, and this is nothing but 1 minus lambda fy. And on the right hand side, we have f of u, which is f of lambda x plus 1 minus lambda, which is nothing but the Jensen's inequality. And thus, we can say f of x is convex. Is this example clear, guys? Abhijit, not sure how you have done, but I hope this is how you have proceeded.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is the importance of solving problem like this? I will tell you, many a times you have formulated some problem and you know some kind of composite function is your final objective function. And in the study of optimization or non-linear programming or linear programming also, many times we need to show that the function is convex. Then you can use these kind of proofs to show that my function is convex, and then you can proceed and show that local optima is global optima. Definitely we'll discuss local optima is global optima later. But yes, so this was the purpose I wanted you to we'll try some more examples like this. Okay, if this one is clear, let's try one more. This one is very interesting, and in fact these results are used many a times to prove the convexity. So the follow statement goes like this. Any questions before I move to the next one? And every time I will ask you to prove some composite or any function like convex. You can use this kind of examples to prove that. Next example is so that for a continuous convex function f, n dimension to one dimensional mapping for every line its average value on the segment is less than or equal to the average of its value at the endpoints. Of the segment. So read the question carefully. थोड़ा सा jumbled up है, but try to understand it. Is the question clear? Is the question clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
So what exactly it is asking?
Sir, like if we take some segment in a convex function.
Okay, let me draw for the benefit of everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, if we can take small segment in a convex function.
Something like this?
Yes, sir, like small thing. It's okay.
Okay, you can take small, you can take large. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So the average value on the segment means like it is like almost representing like Genesis inequality equal to
What's that? Can you repeat, please?
means the statement is like Genesis inequality means like average value on the segment means the value on the segment means when we consider this segment you will have some average value.
Let me make it more clear. So suppose this is fx and this is fy. So what is the average value of the so there are two things I want to highlight here. One is for every line, its average value on the segment is less than or equal to the average of its value at the endpoint. So which one it is trying to tell you?
Like it is saying that other than these two fx and fy, if we take any other 2 points, its average is always less than or equal to this average of this fx and fy, if so.
I mean, why you are excluding fx and fy?
For less than equal to.
So what is the average of fx and fy? Is this right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, one important concept many of you might have forgotten, running average. This is at 2 points I have taken and then found the average. Running average of a function, of a continuous function to be precise, is given by 1 by x, 0 to x, ft dt. Look at this expression clearly and tell me whether it makes sense. Like in case of fx and fy, I have taken the 2 points and averaged it. But what is the average value on the segment? So if you think of this as a small dt, what you are doing? You are adding those small, suppose this is the complete segment and I have divided into, let me start from the side. Suppose I have taken a small infinitesimal small segment dt and I want to find the average value. When I say average value, small such dt will be appearing again and again and again, right? Make sense?
Yes.
And you want to average them. So what do you need to do? If this is between 0 and x, let's say 0 will be somewhere over here, but it's okay. I'm running it from 0 to x. I have to find the area under the curve and the length of that segment, which is between 0 and x. That will give me the average, running average of a function. If you do not know, is it clear what this represents? So this is a very interesting expression. This can be used in many situations where you can prove, like in case of data science also we use it to show the running average of a function. So using this, you have to show that. So using this, we'll find the average value of this on this segment, And then we'll try to find so that that is less than or equal to average of its value, which is fx plus fy by 2. So how do we do that? So this is, I have given you running average of a function. What we are interested in finding the average value of the segment, average value on the segment. How do we do that?
Sir, we should integrate from f of x, like x to y, means if we take 2 points, then it will be average of of that segment.
What we should integrate over what?
X to y means at what segment we have taken, means here the segment is from x to y, means f of x to f. So other than 0 to x, we must integrate from x to y.
Okay, go ahead, try it. Any other suggestions?
We can take t as lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y, and then we can write this ft as less than equal to lambda fx plus 1 minus lambda fy, and then we can proceed.
Yeah, that is very fine. But what is the integration equation looks like? So you are saying
So
that
it will.
just a second.
So
What you are saying, t equals to lambda x plus 1 minus lambda 1. Okay, good. How do we proceed with the integration
no,
part?
then integration part should be this less than equal to 1 by x 0 to
Okay,
x.
go ahead. Go ahead, try it.
Okay.
Go ahead and try it. Are you able to show it? Okay, let me write an expression and see if you can understand how we got this. This is what we need to prove. So this is what we need to prove. Okay. Tell me whether you are able to understand how we got the left hand side of this expression as the average value on the segment. So left hand side is its average value on the segment, and the right hand side is the average of its value at the endpoints of the segment. So are you able to understand the left hand side? See properly.
In the left hand side, it should be.
Your voice is very feeble. Can you be a little louder? Yes, Santanu, go ahead. Santu, I cannot hear you. Can you come closer to the mic?
Sir, can you hear me now?
Very faintly, but go ahead.
Sir, in the left hand side, sir, should we use 1 by y minus x and then integrate from x to y with the same expression?
1 by y minus x. Look at the, with respect to what I am integrating f of lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y. Is x, small x and y, are they variables for all of you?
No, sir.
They are fixed points.
Yes.
Right? So in the running average, which I have written here, what is the length of the segment we are looking at? Y minus x. Now I have t equals to lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y. And ft dt we are trying to differentiate. So when we take the f of lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y as t and differentiate, then we have to also, if now you look at the t expression. What is the variable here? X and y are fixed. It is lambda which is ranging between 0 and 1, right?
Yes, sir.
So when you take dt, it is x d lambda minus y d lambda, right? Now x minus y, you can cancel it as the length of the segment from the denominator, and you can write it as f of lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y d lambda. So this is a case of substitution we need to understand. Now, once you have this expression, how do you, yes?
Since f is a convex function, then f lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y, we can write less than equal to lambda fx plus 1 minus lambda fy, and then d lambda will always be there. Then first part will become fx lambda square by 2 after integration, and the other part will come fy plus lambda minus
that is,
lambda square by 2.
that is once we have this expression, we can always integrate this one and put the integrals and we can find it. I believe that's what you are trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah. So the important part here is to understand this part, the running average. Okay. So once we have this, what we can do 0 to 1 f of lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y. Given the convexity of f, I can always write it the inside expression. So left hand side is 0 to 1 f of lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y d lambda. By the convexity of fx, I can write it as 0 to 1 lambda of fx plus 1 minus lambda of fy d lambda. Is this correct? So once I have written this, then you can integrate and you can get less than equal to lambda square by 2 f of x plus lambda f of y plus lambda, minus lambda square by 2 f of y, and then put the definite integral, you will get less than equal to fx plus fy by 2. Is this clear, guys? Is this example clear?
Yes, sir.
So how this is helpful? As I said, this is one of the, it's not only the example, it is one of the actually properties of convex function, which is used to show some function is convex or not. So how this is helpful? So if you look at the Jensen's inequality, we'll also see the better ways to prove convexity for, especially for differentiable function. But if you look at the Jensen's inequality, can we really prove a function is convex or not using Jensen's inequality? Jensen inequality is good way to start with to tell about convex function, but can we really use it to can we really use it to prove the convexity of a function? Jensen's inequality use करने के लिए ideally you should know the shape of the function or not.
Sir, yes, sir. Like if we take initial points, if function is not like this, if it is like some convex and some concave, if you take that initial points in concave side, then we can say like our function is not convex.
So I gave you this function f of x equals to log x. Sorry, very random function I'm giving. Okay. Can you use Jensen's inequality to prove that it is a convex function? The question is which 2 points you will take. Suppose the function actually somehow looks like this. Which 2 points you will take to so that it is convex? How many possible points are there on this function? How many points are there on this function?
There are many points.
Many points. So it is difficult to pick those 2 points, right?
Yes, sir.
But whatever we have just proved or just saw in the example, can that be used to find whether a function is convex or not? If it's any segment which we have taken, and if it is less than that, can we not say that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can say that.
Helps us in proving further on convexity. So that's why this result is very helpful when it comes to solving. See, what we are doing is more of a showing how convex function works. Okay, the characterization actually, and based on that we try to show if some function is, because believe me, when many of you are already advanced degree students, so you may get a situation where you have formulated a function and so want to show its convexity, and if you are able to show the convexity, it is half the battle won. Now, this also is a good idea, but this is not it. For differentiable function, we have more options to show the convexity, which we will start next week on Monday's class. If you have any questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, we will call it a day, at least from IM 6002 point of view. Yes, if you have any questions, any doubts, we can discuss it. Otherwise, we will wrap up the session, today's session.
Sir, in the last example which you gave, that function, can we take second derivative of fx to check whether it is concave or convex?
Okay, very good. In fact, this question will arise when you will solve many of the class examples and everything. Have I said anywhere that function is convex or differentiable?
No, sir, not in this example. The function which you wrote after this, that log x.
Yeah, that is another way too, because as we are studying the theory of convexity, that is the next way of finding convexity for differentiable function. We use Hessian, and we show that whether if it is a positive semi-definite, then we say that it is convex. Right?
Right.
So that is the next thing. That is the next thing we will discuss. Why Hessian, and we'll also go step by step why Hessian makes sense. Okay, so that is for the next week. Most probably we'll be able to complete the convexity next week and then move to the unconstrained optimization. Okay, Akash?
Yes, sir.
These are what we are discussing, all the examples and everything. These are for general functions. You do not know whether they are differentiable or not. You do not even know the structure of the function itself. So these are for generalization. Okay. Any other question?
Sir, can you please explain that integral part again? How did we convert that
Okay, you try it on your own. If you have any doubt, we can discuss it next class.
Okay, sir.
Sir, I have
You remember substitution?
Yes, sir.
So if I substitute t and with some x, and I want to differentiate it with respect to dt,
Yes, sir.
then do I need to do dx somewhere?
Yes, sir.
Or let's say I want to do fx dt. So first I have to differentiate integrate fx, and then I have to integrate the x part using dt, right?
Yes, sir.
So that is what I have done. But anyway, you try it, pen and paper. Let me know if in the start of the next class if it is not clear.
Okay, sir.
Or you can just drop me a message that this is what I have done. I will discuss it next class. Guys, I won't be able to until it is very some question which TA cannot answer. I will be helping you. Otherwise, most of the stuff you want me to look at, or other than homeworks and all that, I will be discussing directly in the class. I will not be able to respond each one of you individually. You always have an option to go to the TA, discuss with him, and if you feel that TA is not able to answer it satisfactorily, just drop me a message, and for the benefit of everyone, I will discuss in the class itself. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, if your function satisfies Genesis equality for some xy, can we say the
What's
total
Genesis?
inequality?
Oh, you mean Jensen's?
Yes, sir, Jensen, sorry.
Yeah.
So we can say the total function is convex function.
That is the issue, right?
Yes, sir.
On which basis of which 2 points we are saying it is convex, right?
So it depends on what points we are taking.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay. So that is why
So see,
the example
if
lost.
you look at the how the convexity theory has convex functions are developed, we knew the functions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Known functions, we saw that this inequality, Jensen's probably have come up with this inequality and said that, okay, this inequality will hold true as long as it is convex throughout its, domain.
Okay, okay.
And then further the theory, saved.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Like if you look at the linear programming, from the graphical theory, we come to know that, okay, corner points are important.
Yes.
And then the theory started developing why corner points are important.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, guys, if you do not have any questions, then let's stop the class, today's class here. I will see you next week.